Hello everyone, I am Dr. Krishna Chaitanya, Atmakuri, Department of Information Technology. Today's topic, HTML forms from the course Web Systems Engineering. After completion of today's topic, the learners will understand how to include HTML form controls and how to design the forms and how to send it to a server for processing. Dive into actual topic, that is HTML form. HTML forms are used to collect user input and send it to the server for processing. They can contain various types of input fields like text fields, radio buttons, checkboxes, dropdowns, and submit buttons. So, in our web pages, you want to collect some information. User have to input some data, or you have to click submit button. After clicking the submit button, all data is sent to other page or sent to the database. On that time, you have to use HTML forms. Simple syntax for HTML form. So you have to start with form element, and close the form element. In that we have very important two attributes in form element. One is action, another one is method. So action is we have sending the whatever you have input fields, the data is sent to server URL. And we have method is get and post method. In detail discuss these all attributes. So in between this open tag and close tag of form will give the input fields or input controls like text field, text area, radio buttons or normal buttons we can give as input fields. So next one is HTML form attributes. In form element we have different attributes. One is method, another one is action. So action method, the action attribute defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. After clicking on submit button, what you have to append, right? So that is taken care by action method. Suppose you return form action is equal to hash, that will be in the same page. So you not send the information to any other form. Suppose you return some URL here, or some other page. Suppose you take home.php. So that information is sent to home.information. What have you given in this between input fields? So all that is send information to home.php. So there is a action attribute in form element. Usually the form data is sent to a file on the server when the user clicks on the submit button. Next attribute is method attribute. The method attribute specifies the HTTP method to be used when submitting form data. So we will use here HTTP get and or HTTP post methods. HTTP get method appends the form data to the URL in name or value pairs. So along with your URL, it will send that information, whatever you have the input fields, all that fields values are stored in URL. It attached to URL and sent to the destination. So never use get to send sensitive data. So important data which is username, password, the type of data, don't use the method is get method. So the submitted form data is visible in the URL. The length of URL is limited, 2048 characters maximum you can pass the input fields through get method. Next, get is good for non-secure data like query strings in Google. So which are non-secure data, the type of data we can use the get method to send the data from this web page to another web page. Otherwise, you can send to server for storing the data. So that you can use get method. Otherwise, use post method. So get method is if you are using, it is non-secure because everything is displayed in the URL. So everyone can see when you're transferring the data from your page to another page. Next, post method. So when you're transferring the data, after clicking the submit button, actually use the post method. Appends the form data inside the body of the HTTP request. The submitted form data is not shown in the URL. So whatever you submitted the data, all input field values will not shown in the URL. Post has no size limits and can be used to send large amount of data. Form submission with post cannot be bookmarked. Suppose you want to bookmark, then use a get method. Otherwise, no need of post or want to pass the secure data securely, your data from one page to another web page or send to server, then use the post method. So we have two attributes, very important. One is action, another one is method. Simple example. So what are you sending after clicking on submit button, all these input fields, whatever you entered, that information is sent to submit.php file. So action is equal to submit.php. If the method is post method. See here, action is submit.php, the URL where the form data is sent. Method is post, HTTP method is used. Already seen the advantage of post method. And name is email, the name used to identify the input field required. Instead the field is filled before submission. So if you are given the required, the mandatory have to enter the input field for that input control. Right? So simple input fields we use here, text field, text input field, another one is email input field. So input type is equal to email, input type is equal to text. So simple example or structure for using forms. So we have different form controls. We'll discuss in detail one by one. We have text input controls, labels, checkboxes, radio buttons, select box, submit and reset button, files select boxes, so on. So we'll discuss in detail some of them. One is text input controls. So text input controls. There are three types of input text controls used. One is single line text input control. So this control used for items that require only one line for the user input, such as search boxes or names. For example, enter first name, enter second name, enter username. So one line text. Then you can use single line text input controls. The syntax is input type is equal to text. A name is username. And we have one more attribute is placeholder. So enter username, enter your name. So here you can enter the text and we can identify this text box with the name username. And whenever you open this web page, this text box, it will show here enter your name. So like this we can use the input controls. One of the input control is text input control, that is a single line input control. Next one is password. So we can also enter the password which will mask the text. So this is also single line text input control, but it masks the character as soon as user enters it. So simple syntax or example, input type is equal to password and name is equal to password. So if you want to enter the number, only number, it not accept the text, then you have to use that input type is number. Right. So one more type is multi-line text input controls. If you want to enter more than one line in the text box, like you want to give the feedback or some paragraphs you have to enter as input, then you have to use multi-line text input controls. This is used when the user is required to give the details that may be longer than a single sentence. Multi-line input controls are created using HTML text area tag. So here we have to use element is text area. So text area, name is equal to message, rows is equal to 4, columns is equal to 50, and between, right, we have to close the text area tag. So here we have different attributes are there in text area for giving the input for multi-line text. So one is name for identifying that control. Next we have rows, how many rows we can enter in the text box or text area, how many rows. And next one is calls, indicate the number of columns for the text area. So that about, if you want to give some example is feedback, then you have to use that input field is text area. So you can limit that how many rows or columns also. Right, that about HTML text input controls, single line, multi-line, or we can pass the password. Next we have button controls. There are various ways in HTML to recreate the clickable buttons. Create a clickable button using input tag by setting its type attribute as button. So simply we can create the button, and for example we can create the submit button. If all enter all the fields, enter all the input fields and click the submit button. Otherwise normal buttons, if you want to use clickable buttons, then you can use button. So button, right? So here different buttons are there. Submit button, this creates a button that automatically submits a form. So what are you given the input field, that will submit and send to the action URL. Next, reset button. This creates a button that automatically reset form controls to their initial values. So whenever you open the web page, what are the input values are there in the text fields or input fields? It will display that one. It will clear all the input data. So that is a reset button. Otherwise you can create the normal buttons, clickable buttons, or image buttons. For image also we create give the input as insert the image, and for that image we can create the button. Right, so we have different button controls are there. The submit button, reset button, you can clear the customize button or image button. We'll see in detail. So here simple example, the type you have to specify submit, and name is submit, value is equal to submit. So when you click the submit button, right, it will send all the input fields to that action page. Next, reset, it clears the form. Next, button, we can create our own button, customize button. Next, input type is equal to image. For this image we are creating that button. So if you click on this button, it will do some action, or if that information is sent to that action page. So there is a simple example for form button controls. Next we have very important checkbox control. Checkboxes are used when more than one option is required to be selected. Suppose you want to select your choice more than one, then you have to use checkboxes. Suppose you have what is the property you have, so then you have to select for loan what are the properties you have. So we can select the land or motorbike or some else, right? You have to select them by using checkboxes. So when you have multiple options, right, then you have to go for checkbox. So you have to use the type is input is a control or element, and type is equal to checkbox, name is equal to subscribe. So subscribe to newsletter. So there is a in between the label element given here. So simply shows here checkbox, and here it is specifying subscribe to newsletter. So you can checkbox it, right? So when you have multiple choices are there, then you have to use checkboxes. For applying the loan, you have to specify the property, or do you have that land or a bank account or salary account, or you have the motorbike or car, or whatever you have the need. You have to do the checkboxes, right? Next one is radio button control. So when you have only one option, then you have to use radio buttons, right? Just one option is required for the selected. Suppose you have to select the gender, male or female. So you have to write male or female. So you have to select any one. So then you have to use the radio button. Input type is equal to radio, and name is equal to gender, value is equal to male, right? So we have different buttons are there, checkbox, and another one is radio button control. So in this red checkbox, we have the attributes. Type indicates the type of input control. So this one is the checkbox, and we have the name to identify that control, and value that will be used if the checkbox is selected. See here. Suppose we have to select the language known. Language is known. Right? We have here we have 4 checkboxes are there. So we can suppose multiple subjects you want to select for registration, then use right checkbox. So for registration purpose, Maths, Physics, English, Telugu, like that we can select the for registration subjects for your course, right? Then you have to use checkboxes, multiple choices, right? Next we have very important one is, so you have to select the country where you are, right? Then you have to use select box control. Select. So in your choice, so we have any number of countries will display list. In that you have to select your country. So then you have to use select box control. A select box also called drop down box, which provides option to list down various options in the form of drop down list, from where a user can select one or more options. Here also we can select more than one or more options. Then we can use select box, right? So here, what is the syntax for the select box? The root element is select element, name is equal to drop down, and close the select box. In between you have to pass the options, right? What are the list we have? That every list we have value we have to specify in the option. Option value is equal to value in the list selected. So by default we can select the value, that is name of the value, option. So by default it will select it, right? So like this you can choose any one, more than one choice also. So by using drop down menu or by using select box. Very important when you do registering the form, registering the subject list, or choosing the languages, then you can use drop down menu. Then you have to use select text box. So we have different attributes in this select box control. One is name to identify this control, and size. This can be used to present a scrolling list box. How many items you have to list? 1 or 2 or 3. Then you have to specify the size. So you have to display to the user when click on that control. Next, multiple. If set to multiple, then allows user to select multiple items from the menu. So more than one item we can select. If you specify there, attribute is in the select menu, right? Multiple attribute. Next we have option tag. In sub-element of select is option tag. In that we have value. The value that you used if an option is select box is selected. So which option is selected? So country is India. So IN we given the option value. So that will be selected. And when you submit it, the value is sent IN to the other page or to the server for the storing the database. Next, selected. Specify that option should be initially selected value when the page loads. And label, an alternate way of labeling options, right? So initially selected. So you write the selected in as an attribute, right? That will be highlight, right? So here is suppose you are joining his first year in engineering. So if there is a choice, you have to select which department you are joining. So you have to select the option. On the time you have to use the form, right? One of the input field is select. So name is drop down, multiple, size is equal to 1. Only one way it will be displayed, size. So if you given here multiple, if you want to select for course joining at counseling more than one choice you want to select, then you have to use multiple. So this is optional. Based on your requirement you can use it. So option value is equal to 1, arrow. Option value is equal to 2, selected. By default CSE, selected. It is showing the selected. That will be highlighted. Next we have AML, data science, CS. IT, EC, EEE. So based on the requirement, more than one choice we can select for counseling. Right, that by using select menu bar. Right. Next we have a very important control for uploading the some content to your server. Suppose the students will write worksheets that you have to upload to your server into the login. Then you have to use file upload box control. Uses to upload a file to a website. You will need to use a file upload box, also known as file selected box. So simple element you have to use: input, type is equal to file, name is equal to file upload. So when you click on that input field, it will browse and we have to select the file, which type you are going to upload. Right. So in this we have two attributes. One is name, another one is accept. So name is to identify that right, which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the value. And accept is specify the type of file that the server accepts it or not. Suppose you are uploading only JPG file, then you have to specify only image. They have to accept only JPG. Suppose you are uploading the PDF files, only you have to accept only PDF. Other than that, you will not accept it. Then you have to specify the accept attribute. Right. So that is a file upload box control. So simple example, see here. If you want to upload any type of images, image.jpg, PNG, right, the type of files you want to upload images, you can accept it. So input type file, ID is equal to image, name is equal to image, and accept is equal to image /star. As well as we can upload the document files like PDF, docx files. Right, input type is equal to file. Right. So here we are accepting images, only images, JPG, PNG. Okay, multiple. Allow selecting multiple files. You given here multiple, accept multiple. More than one page we can upload, one document we can upload, multiple documents. Right. So then here use here restrict file format. Here restricting, you can upload only PDF, doc or docx files. Right. So that about file upload control. Next we have very important for changing the appearance, you can select the colors. So color and range elements. See here, color, you want to give the input as a color input type, then you use the value is color. Then it shows the right color format, whichever you want to choose, you can choose it. Next we have input type is equal to range, ID is equal to volume, name is equal to volume, minimum 0, max is equal to 100. So it will show the range value, right, from starting and ending. So where, for example, you want to increase the volume or you want to select the loans, right, then you have to select the what is maximum loan you need. So on that time you can use that range values. Right, we'll execute a simple example and we'll see it how to work with input controls or HTML fonts. So open the VS Code editor or any editor, go to the file, open the new file. Simply we'll create one login page by using input controls and to close it. Right, HTML forms.html. Just save the file HTML. Just create file. And we are writing in HTML5 version, just choose it, and all head section meta tags will get it. Here we're giving the title HTML forms. In body section we're giving the title, simple title h2 login page, and we'll use here forms, right, form form. Right. So remaining two elements or attributes are optional. That is action. Action is equal to, if given a hash, it will send that to the same page. Suppose you given here home.php, then it will send to whatever you give the input fields, that will send to home.php. So we are not sending to anything. So within the page we have to process, then use the hash. And method is, you can use either get method or post method. Right. So you're giving here get method. right? Get method. Here we have to use the controls. For example, I'm creating login page. So the first one is enter label you have to use for giving the names, label. Right, in between that we are creating the one more input field, input, input, yeah. So here we're giving the name, enter, username, right? So we can use br tag for new line character, right? New line character. So here creating the form, input form, the single text input control. So input type is equal to text, and we have to give the name for this text box. Name is equal to username, and placeholder you can specify of when you are entering what you have to enter, you have to know. Then you can use placeholder attribute. Enter user name. Here we can specify it. Okay, so no need of closing for input control, right? So simple, we can use here one more break line, right? BR, and we can change the background color, right? BG color of your web page to some green color, right? Right. Next, you can create one more input field. Yeah, label. Enter. Right. Sorry. Enter password. Right. Label tag. We are just giving the name, right? For that, what you have to do, right? Next, we have input type is equal to. So what is the type we have to pass here? Password, right? Password. And name is equal to, for identification purpose, in future when you send to PHP you want to retrieve the data, you can use the name also, pwd, and placeholder you can specify is equal to enter password, right? Just close it, right? So that about input fields we can specify here, and we can create here to submit, one submit button and another one is reset button. Then you can specify here input type is equal to submit, and right, input type is equal to submit, value is equal to submit. So what do you want to display for that button, right? Input type is equal to submit, we will use submit, and name we can specify the name. What is the name of this button? B1 I am giving here. Okay, otherwise you can specify here simply submit button, right? So one more control we can create, right? So for understanding purpose, we use here BR, right? We have one more control, input type is equal to reset button, you can use here, and value is equal to reset, and name is equal to, right, reset. So just save the file, right? All the form controls we are given, right? Delete, right? Space, save the file. So what is the file name we given? HTML forms. Just open the folder. Desktop we have a WSC example wise, right? HTML forms, right? So like this we'll get, right? Yeah. So just add here small br tag, just save the file and do refresh, right? Simply getting login page. So these are input controls. We can enter the right name, right, password, which is hiding, right? So you can view it or hide it. So you have here reset button, you can reset it, or you can submit it. Okay, okay. So it will send to same page because they were given hash. Okay, so we want to add the checkbox before, right, after reset. Suppose you are the new user, you want to, right, create the new user, you have to register it. Then you can use here label, right, label. Before we can add here some checkbox, input type is equal to checkbox, right? Checkbox name is equal to CB, checkbox 1, right? Input type is equal to checkbox. By default it must be selected, right? Selected, select, close, right? And we can create here label, it is a new user. You have to restrict. Use the anchor tag, anchor tag, anchor tag. Registration form, href is equal to, here we have to specify the URL. Open the registration page, registration.php. So that you have to open it by clicking this, right? Click me, CLICK, click me. We'll close the anchor tag, right? Save the file. Go to the browser and do refresh. See here, if you are the new user, just select it, click here, click me. Otherwise, you can specify here new user, registration, right? New user registration. Save the file, right? To refresh. So here is showing new registration, new user registration. Click here. If you click here, it will open the registration.php page. If you want to move to the next line, then you can use here br type. Right, just save the file, do refresh, right, say stability. Sorry, select it. Check it, right, check, do refresh. Yeah. By default it is check. If you need, we can uncheck it or check it. Okay, so default you want to check it, then click here. Otherwise uncheck and enter username and password. Like this we can create the form for login page, registration form. Otherwise if you click on this, you'll get the registration form. There you can use different forms what we discussed previously, right? Suppose you want to add the in registration form date of birth. Simply use here input type is equal to date. Simple. Just save the file and do refresh. So here we can select the date here. Date. If you want to add the color, for example, color, right? Then you can use here input type is equal to color. Just save the file, right? Refresh it. Color. You can choose the color, right? Okay, that's okay. So we want to enter some input value is only numbers data. Then you can use here input type is equal to number. So here we can enter only number data. Other than number, if you enter, it will show the error. So it will not accept. Okay. So by this we can use the radio button or the other text area, right? Or any buttons we can create. We can create our own button also. Right here, simply type here input type is equal to button, right? Type is equal to BUTT1 button. We can create it and name that button. Name is equal to BT2, right? We can specify the name BT2 and we can specify the value also. Value is equal to clear, for example, right? So like that we can create our own button, right? BUTTY button, open tag and close tag, right? Clear, right? We can create it. So just do refresh. So the button is created, clear button, right? So we can create our own button also, right? Button, clear button also created. So like this we can create and use the controls and create the forms, right? By using all this, right? File upload, date, everything we can do. Whatever you discuss, we can do it, right? So conclusion, coming to the conclusion, HTML forms are essential for gathering input, user input, right? We can gather the user input and we can send to the page or action method, that is to your URL, and we can send to other page or we can send to the server. This can be enhanced with JavaScript for validation and Ajax for seamless user experience. So thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.